Okay, class, where we are now is to start talking about muscle. We're starting on muscle. This is my Muscle 1 PowerPoint. The other thing I want you to do for this particular muscle PowerPoint is this. Let me just minimize this. I want you to go and look at in MS Word, this, an explanation of excitation. This will be in your ANP1 section under muscle EC coupling. Muscle EC coupling. So what it's listed under, I'm going to type it in real quick and then come back, is muscle EC coupling. So I want you to print that out and just use it as a companion. Muscle EC coupling. That's what you're looking for. All right. So I'm going to take that off. And then I'm going to bring this PowerPoint back up, which is Muscle 1. So let's go through that. We're going to take our time and go through this and see if we can understand this. All right. So basically what happens is we start first with the 3 types of muscle. We have 3 types of muscle in the human body. Skeletal muscle, which is attached to the skeleton. Skeletal muscle, which is attached to the skeleton. Okay. Cardiac muscle, let's go to the next one, which is in the heart. Okay. And then something called smooth muscle. Now come over here. So we have a skeletal, which is attached to the skeleton. That's your voluntary. We have the heart muscle, and we have smooth muscle. That would be like in your intestines, your bladder, so forth like that there. Okay? So 3 types that we've got. The skeletal muscle is attached to bones and the skin. Now, most of the time it's bones. Skin, see the muscles of facial expression, how you can move your skin to make different looks, grimaces. Some muscle is attached to the skin. This muscle is striated. So I come over here. Okay. Skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle are striated, which basically means striped. It's a striped appearance under the microscope. Why? And we'll see this. But here's the preliminary. The myofilaments, which we'll learn, actin and myosin, are in a myofibril arrangement. That's what this myofibril arrangement is, what makes it look striped under the microscope. Smooth muscle is not striated because though they are myofilaments, actin and myosin, they are not in a myofibril arrangement. So let's look at a picture. So see right here, that's skeletal, is striped. Here is cardiac, that's striped. Here you don't see stripes, that's smooth. And the reason again has to do with the arrangement on a cellular level, okay, is a voluntary. We can voluntarily move our arm and everything. It's very powerful. And this is the primary topic of this particular chapter in your text. All right, so let's go a little further. So we said that you had cardiac, smooth. Here's a picture again of that particular aspect. Okay, so we go here now. What are the special characteristics of muscle tissue? Excitability. You can stimulate it. You can stimulate it. As a matter of fact, you cannot get a muscle contraction of skeletal muscle without stimulating it. Of skeletal muscle. Okay. Smooth muscle can sometimes act without that. Okay. Cardiac muscle has its own pacemaker, but I'm not interested in cardiac or smooth right now, only skeletal. And actually, ANP2 is really when I'm going to hit this, and a little bit in ANP1 on this. So really I'm going to focus on skeletal. Okay, contractility, the ability to shorten when stimulated, to actually shorten against a force. Extensibility, the ability for you can pull it out. Elasticity, it will recoil back. And then conductivity, conductivity means it can carry an impulse along its surface. Now, when we get into this, I want you to go, when we get to this conductivity within here, I want you to go to my electrophysiology. module. I have a separate module, which is not a chapter actually. It's an excerpt. It's called Electrophysiology. And you'll see that module. Now this is important because two tissue types can do conductivity, nerve and muscle. So I want you to kind of study that, and you'll see, I'll bring it in and show what I'm talking about. All right. Skeletal muscle functions. Movement of bones, okay? Movement of bones, and actually I should have said muscle functions. Let me just take that out. Muscle functions, movement of bones or fluids like blood, but that was smooth muscle. Movement of bones or fluids like smooth muscle. Maintain posture and body position, that's skeletal muscle. Stabilize joints, that's skeletal muscle. Heat generation, that's skeletal muscle primarily. Okay? Let's go a little further. Each muscle, now I want to talk on that for a moment. Okay? When I say each muscle, okay, you say, what is a muscle? Well, you know colloquially what it is. All right. A muscle, like the biceps, is made up of a bunch of muscle cells. Let me start out. A muscle is made up of a bunch of muscle cells. Okay, so let's think. So when I say each muscle is served by one artery, one nerve, and one or more veins, that means like your biceps would have one artery, one nerve, and one or more veins. Now they're going to splay out. The artery is going to break into smaller divisions. So it's going to come as one artery, but break into smaller divisions to go all up and down your biceps or your quads. One nerve, it also will splay out, and one or more veins, they will splay out, but it will only be one going to it. But they're going to branch out, if you understand what I'm saying. Okay, let's go a little further. Okay. There, I come back here now to explain this. A muscle like the biceps, I'm going to go to a picture. A muscle like the biceps. So assume this muscle hooked to a bone. It's a muscle hooked to a bone. This actually would be your femur here, just as an example in the text. So muscle, the whole muscle. Now you've all eaten steak, I'm sure, and you see that white part before the steak has been cut. It has been cooked, shall I say, has been cooked. That's connective tissue. So a muscle like the biceps is surrounded by an epimysium. The whole muscle, that's a dense, irregular connective tissue deal. That's that epimysium around it, like around a big steak. Okay, but a muscle like is surrounded by the and is made up of a bunch of muscle fibers. Okay, this is one fiber. Now muscle fiber is really one muscle cell. So that right there is one muscle cell. Okay, that's one muscle cell. Okay. In skeletal muscle, though, muscle fibers are arranged in fascicles. What a fascicle are several muscle cells surrounded by this perimysium. So let's do it again. Epimysium around the whole muscle. Perimysium around something we call a fascicle, which is made up of a bunch of muscle cells. And each muscle cell itself is surrounded by something we call an endomysium. An endomysium. An endomysium. Okay? All of these are connective tissue coverings. All of these are connective tissue coverings. Now, the mysiums, see, I just kind of took that, which is the suffix, are dense, irregular connective tissue, which is non-conductive. So these don't do conductivity, these coverings. Only nerve and muscle can do that. Okay, let's go further because we got to get the anatomy down intact in order to understand this phys. Okay, now the epimysium. Now I'm going to go to one other thing before I do that, though. I'm going to go here. Okay, so in other words, what we're looking at now, I'm going to come here, and I did my terms, my levels of terms. Okay. Muscle, bunch of muscle cells. When you hear the word myofiber, now I'm going to come back up here You see I have sarco and myo. Anytime on a standardized test, even if you don't know what the heck is going on, if you see sarco or myo, that means muscle. Sarco is a Greek term. So if I say sarcoplasm, that's a muscle thing. Myo is Latin, right? So I come here, see, where am I? So when we say a muscle fiber, that's a muscle, that's a bunch of muscle cells. If we say a myofiber, that's one muscle cell. If we say a myofibril, see, I want to get that term, these terms, that's an intracellular anatomical structure that's a special arrangement of its subcomponents. And the subcomponents that make up a myofibril are myofilaments. So I'm going to go back here. So we got to get this anatomy down. We'll go back here. So in this muscle fiber, myofiber, would be myofibrils, and that's what a myofibril. Each of these little circular things is that. Then the myofilaments are within this that we'll get to. They are within this. Let me see if this does it. Okay, here's a myofibril right there. So here's one muscle fiber. Here's a myofibril. And what we're going to find that inside that myofibril are going to be these things here. That's still a myofibril, are going to be these things, which we're going to call myofilaments, that we're going to get to. So here's one myofibril, and these little dots here, this is one and these little dots are the myofilaments. So we'll be coming to that. We'll be coming to that. Okay? So we come back, we already did that. All right, now I'm saying, let me use this picture, get over here so you can see it at the same time, that the epimysium directly attaches to a bone, and a tendon attaches a skeletal muscle to a bone. Let me say it again. A tendon attaches a skeletal muscle to the bone, because remember, it is a skeletal muscle. So what the epimysium does is just continue past the muscle itself, continue past the muscle itself and attach to the bone. So the epimysium, after it leaves the muscle, reflects off the muscle, becomes the tendon. Now, this here is a round muscle, I'm going to say. So this is a round connection we call a tendon. If this was a flat muscle, you say, where's a flat muscle? Feel your forehead. Your forehead has the frontalis muscle. It's flat. And it would attach to a flat bone, which is your skull, your frontal bone. So it's going to attach by something called an aponeurosis. An aponeurosis, as you'll see in the textbook, it will say it's a flat tendon. Because obviously you didn't want to have a round tendon in your forehead, because you look like the guy on Star Trek. Okay? Indirectly, connective tissue wrappings extend below the muscle, and that's what they're talking about here. All right? So let's go a little further, see where we are now. All right, so we looked at that. All right, the microscopic anatomy of a skeletal muscle fiber, which is a muscle cell. Cylindrical, 10 to 100 microns in diameter, up to 30 centimeters long. These can get quite long. Multiple peripheral nuclei. Now you see right here, these are nuclei. Now we already did mitosis. Let me tell you what happens. There were two ways for a cell to become multinucleated. One was to do mitosis without cytokinesis, and the other is to fuse several cells together. Skeletal muscle cells were small, and then as you started to grow after you got out of the mom's womb, they started coming together, joining together, bringing their nuclei. So it's a matter of fusion that made these cells long and multinucleated. All right, I'm going to close right here because I'm running out of time on this one, and we're going to start right here and pick up on the next video, okay?